Howdy nerds, another day at Gonro Games. No, it's gonna be a busy day today, so you are just gonna get me talking while I unbox. I believe Fallout has come in, and we will get it all set up and organized and shipped off. And that will be my discussion today, is just really discussing Universes Beyond and Fallout in the MTG market. The crazy MTG market has a lot going on right now, with sales-wise of everything going up in value except for brand new sets, with the exception of the Fallout is doing incredibly well. So we're still struggling with things like Dominator Remastered. We are open, look at that. And there's our Chloe Bear to meet us. Hi, Chloe. How are you, Chloe? Yeah, with the exception of Dominator Remastered and Commander Masters and Karlov Manor, well, I guess the exception is Fallout. Like, all the rest of the new sets have been doing pretty dismal, but Fallout has been, of course, selling exceptionally well. Speaking of Fallout, we have these cool little deck boxes that Zach found some files on and designed and painted up. So these things look beautiful. Look at that sucker. Zach is very talented. So we do have the 3D printers churning and creating some cool things. So Zach uses this as a dice box and whatnot. So pretty fun stuff there. Let's actually see what Zach is doing. And there's Bruce being lazy as usual back there. Yep, that is Bruce's spot. He'll just sit there and sleep all day until it's time for the walk. And then he'll get excited and we'll go for our daily walk. But anyway, we got Zach working on back here. He doesn't like to be on camera. Oh, you're painting something. Yeah. And that is Zach in his natural environment.
It's a mess.
It is a mess. This is what it's like being a creative personality. Speaking of creative personalities, here we go back to my mess. So this is what I expected. We have a slew of most of this is Commander Fallout because the collector's editions were very, very highly allocated. So, and they're going for a pretty penny. And that's what I'm saying. That's what's causing this kind of this rush on the Fallout, is because everyone is just paranoid there's not going to be any supply. So a lot of what's happened in the market in the past, I mean, 2023 really conditioned everyone not to pre-order, just to wait and wait for the Amazon dump and buy then. And now Wizards of the Coast threw everyone a curveball to where Fallout was not as printed, did not have a high print run like some of these other Universes Beyond sets. And now it's the panic where everyone is going crazy to now try and figure out how they're going to get their Fallout collectors. And this set actually had a lot of good reprints in it, and so that is also causing people to go crazy. So let's get this sucker set up here and see if we can talk while I see if I can get this thing to rotate, and then we can talk while I unbox all this stuff and get it all shipped off. So hey, look at that. We're learning how to utilize this camera. It's actually a pretty cool camera. I'm really liking it because it does give kind of the whole video log feel, makes my life a lot easier. So got a lot of how I have it set up here is one of the perks we have for patrons is I don't do what a lot of other people do, which is, it kind of does kill myself to do this, but I like offering this service to set me aside, is I don't just like say, okay, you get X amount of this, I ship it off and whatnot. I allow people to combine with other stuff. So we have a lot of products that we're combining that people want for their Fallouts. For example, this person wanted a bunch of Dragon Shield sleeves, so we have Dragon Shield sleeves going out with their order. Got more Ravnica clues here. You can even get things like binders. So this is a Lost Cavern of Ixalan binder. The one thing about this is you ever do want to order these from Ultra Pro, these binders that come out with the sets, is you actually have to order them. Ultra Pro has tightened their belts. They only print to demand now, so they try to collect pre-orders about 4 or 5 months in advance. And so oftentimes you have to order all of the product before you see the art. And so I've just kind of passed on it because sometimes there's been some really crappy art, marching machines, or I mean, some of the stuff from Infinity, some of the stuff from Commander Masters was actually quite ugly. And so, you know, we didn't want to order stuff. And then, you know, then people want it and you can't even get it at that point because everything is just print to kind of print to demand from Ultra Pro because they don't want any wasted. Well, Ultra Pro went through like a whole 2018, 2019. I remember it was pre-pandemic. The supply boom and bust, where supplies got expensive, and then there's just too many supplies out there. And I think Ultra Pro lost its pants on overprinting for a lot of Magic products. There was a time you could get the Magic the Gathering, especially, I remember it was like the 2018 Commanders or the 2017, one of those, where they overprinted those sleeves and all the accessories with it, and those are available for like, you know, dumpster fire prices for years. And I think Ultra Pro lost a lot of money on that because it used to be that playmats and sleeves, especially the branded stuff, the IP stuff used to be a hot commodity, and then the kind of culture shifted where people wanted more customizable things. And they didn't really care to like match up their commander decks with a playmat and sleeves. And so, you know, Ultra Pro printed so much of that sort of stuff, and then it dried up. And so now they've gone to a different business model to where they only print to where, you know, exactly what is pre-ordered, so they don't ever lose money. Like kind of what I do, money up front, know exactly what I need, what I'm getting, and that way you don't have this excess you have to blow out on like the, you know, the dumps and whatnot from the distributors. So anyway, let's talk Fallout as I unbox this. Need to go and find a knife back here so I can start unboxing and getting all this organized. Like I said, I know this is mostly going to be commander decks, so it's not going to be too interesting because again, we are very highly allocated. And in fact, I actually got a lot more than most stores did. So I'm actually very appreciative we've been able to build up our numbers with one particular distributor and been very loyal to them, and they were very loyal back. But I was only able to secure 30 of them. Is what we were able to get from this distributor, and then a couple other distributors. I'm extremely mad at one particular distributor because I've taken everything from them. So when the Lorcana back orders came in, I took it all. When and yeah, I mean, it was crazy the amount of back orders from Lorcana, and I'm still sitting on it. I have piles and piles of Lorcana I still need to sell, and I took it all because you don't want to, like, that's the whole theory, is you treat the distributor right, they'll treat you right. But this particular distributor only gave me 2 collectors, so now I'm a little bit like, well, maybe I won't take back orders from now on. If you know, and they cut me all one piece. Like I got 0 one piece from them from the latest set. They completely didn't allocate me any because I don't know. This is kind of the rat race you play to distributors. I don't know how I'm going to up my numbers on particular things like One Piece if you can never buy it. And I've bought every stinking, you know, bit of One Piece I can get my hands on, but they're still going to the stores that have purchased more. I think if you got in early on that IP, or maybe if you just do so much business with that particular distributor. But I mean, I have done a lot of business with them. But anyway, I digress. This is just kind of the headaches of running a store. All the people that have a dream of running a store, I'd highly recommend that you think of something else, because you have to have definitely a certain type of personality to run a store, and it won't be all roses and unicorns. A lot of it is grindy. A lot of it is, you know, like the nitty-gritty work you have to do every day. And then you also have to play a lot of games with distributors and customers and stuff. It does become like a headache. You start to get worn down of all of the nonsense that goes along with, you know, running a store, you know, the behind the scenes sort of stuff. So looks like the boxes are back in the commander decks are back in the regular boxes in these, rather than they went to the kind of thinner boxes with the, let's just go ahead and pull one out and see. Hopefully someone doesn't, I don't know if these are all sold or if we did keep some for the store. We had like zero people pre-order for Fallout from our locals. They didn't want it. They were just going to pass. And then of course when the cards are spoiled, then everyone wants it. I'm like, guys, it's too late now. I put in my pre-orders. You have to get your pre-orders in. Okay, so they are going to be kind of the, this was like the March Machines and the other Universes Beyond ones. So this is what they look like. Not going to unbox any of them here. But yeah, Fallout. Fallout is kind of a good and a bad sign. The bad sign that I'm having with Fallout is they're continuing their nonsense with like, I was hoping that Universes Beyond would be more new cards. And then they still need to give some breathing room, especially for like commander type cards. For reprints, and I think they were afraid about this set because it's the first like really off the, well, I guess Doctor Who was off the beaten path for Universes Beyond, but I think they wanted to guarantee that these suckers sold by having some high impact reprints in these sets. So Warhammer didn't. That's the whole thing with Warhammer. Warhammer was able to get away with, they did have some in there, but the vast majority of those new cards that drove the desire, and same with the Lord of the Rings. There's new cards that drove the desire of those. Doctor Who, same there were some good reprints in it, but by and large, it was the new cards that drove kind of the sales for those. So Fallout is kind of weird where they decided to go for some high impact reprints, and I think that's what the collectors are really, and there's some really good cards in them, but it just goes to show I am still worried about the Commander format because the power creep continues to just get pushed and pushed and pushed. And now, like, even casual Commander is at such a higher power level than what we used to swing with Grimgrims, and some really trashy cards that were fun to play with because there was breathing room and time for a Commander board state to build up, and you could do some cool little combos. I remember when Rooftop Storm was such a cool combo in Commander, and now it's like so unplayable because a bunch of the pieces for it are like 6-7 drops, and yeah, it's just there's better things to do now with those type of stuff. So again, I'm not the biggest Commander player, so maybe I'm not the right one to talk about whether it's good or bad. Personally, I did not like kind of the power level change of Commander. I think that's been the problem, is when they started printing things like Fierce Guardianship and just a lot of what we call like auto includes in your Commander deck, that each time they create one with every Dockside Extortionist they create is just one less slot that you can actually put in your Commander because it's now dedicated to these really, really high powered cards. So that's what I'm kind of concerned about Fallout. It seemed like there's many of those type of cards that are going to act the exact same way as the aforementioned cards I said. So anyway, so that is kind of the bad news with Fallout, is I'm a little bit concerned about not giving some breathing room for the Commander market to recover. I think that's the one that got hit the most in 2023 and 2022 with the amount of reprints and just the amount of FOMOing, that I think that's the market that does need some breathing room. The good news is though, yeah, like I said, it was just crazy amount of desire for this. Maybe it just hit the right spot. I think that timing has more to do with a lot of the MTG sets doing well. More than anything, we're right in the midst of tax return season, right in the midst of a kind of a bull market. So I got a lot of criticism on one of my videos calling it a bear market, which I still think the TCGs are under a bear market because we're still trying to figure out, manufacturers and distributors and the whole ecosystem is trying to figure out how to go back to normality, where you don't have just the people staying at home, not spending money at restaurants and vacations. So you had all that money going to collectibles. You had all I mentioned this before and I get all dumb comments about it because it did happen, all the fraud. One of the biggest vendors in Magic the Gathering, in my opinion, committed fraud when they took out loans that were supposed to protect employees' wages, and they were making record profit numbers, and they were actually hiring employees during this time period. So I'm not going to name names, but I think people can go and do some Google searches and see exactly which one some of these companies took out these interest-free loans, or a lot of them didn't even have to be paid back. And we're talking millions of dollars of just free money from the government that then they reinvested into their own products, which is just, again, in my opinion, is very scummy. It's very, and a lot of people say, well, hate the player, hate the game, not the player. But when, like, those type of things were supposed to be to keep restaurants afloat, to make sure that the people didn't starve during the lockdowns, the forced lockdowns, or at least the suggested lockdowns. And we had particular companies laying off, well, not laying off employees, they were hiring employees during this time period because they were so busy with the amount of orders and the amount of money that was coming in. And yet they still took out the free loans. So what that did in a kind of a macro level is it pumped so much money. Just think of that one company alone that took out the multi-million-dollar loans. How much money that pumped in to investing in cardboard or buying in cardboard, which then gave the manufacturers a false sense of what the true demand was, because they're just filling their own little stockpiles of things, and then it caused them to print more. And so we're still under this market, which is now a bear market. Magic has definitely turned a page, and again, it might have coincide more with tax season than anything, and kind of this bullish market we have in the stock market and crypto that might be bringing a bit more money back into collectibles because people now have some breathing room. However, if you look at the market as a whole as like Flesh and Blood and Pokemon, and even like the whole definition of a bear market is just down 20%. And you have to absolutely say that Pokemon is down 20%. And same with Flesh and Blood, and even same with, like, to a nutshell of what Lorcana expected. Of course, Lorcana is still growing, but I mean, it's not growing at the rates that it was. And so if you factor in all those things, we are, and it goes beyond that. You can look at other sales and other TCGs and accessories, and as a whole, everything was pretty much down from the height of the 2022, 2023 kind of mad rush of things. So again, we can argue about the terminology of which is this a natural bear or like a cause bear, like I said, because this is just everything trying to come back to normalcy, everything trying to come back to how it was before there was so much money injected into this particular market. And again, I think that people underestimate the amount of money when people weren't going on vacations, when people weren't going to restaurants, when people, weren't filling up their gas tank because of those said activities. It freed up so much money and boredom to go into collectibles, to go into trading cards. And not only that, it caused a lot of people to get into that industry and think they could work from home and sell magic cards instead of having a real job. And so, we are still, the market, call it a bear, call it whatever you want, whatever definition that I want to do, we are on this readjustment where the markets need to find a good supply and demand, and where it just needs to go to an equilibrium again. We need to find some stability. And I really thought that Magic was going to continue to drop another 20, 30, 40% before we found that stability and before we were able to find a sort of, like I said, an equilibrium. Now, I have watched a lot of economists and listened to a lot of what they're saying, and apparently what could be happening right now, especially with the crypto market and the stock market, is kind of the whole theory with macroeconomics is we had the problem with the first bout of inflation we had was there was too much money in the system. So a lot of and I won't get too political, but you can definitely see my politics here. I'm not a fan of Keynesian economics. I'm not a fan of the Fed regulating how much money should be in the money supply. I'm more of a hands-off old school Austrian school of economics, of where you should let the free market, or let's just let the market do its thing, rather than try to be the big hand of the government trying to regulate of how much money's in the money supply, and thinking you can basically play God with economics. So again, we can get kind of political and economically political in here, but I think that's what we're really suffering from, is that Keynesian economic policy of we can control the money supply by just printing it and thinking there won't be some massive repercussions of doing so. And so when the government did that, what happened was there was just literally trillions of dollars that didn't exist, that now came into existence. That the whole theory with now of what we're going to go through for the next 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even longer, is we're going to have these massive ebbs and flows of money supply. So the consumers, you and I, are going to have money after these tax return seasons, or just the shifting of the market. And then what ends up happening through when the Fed increases interest rates, or when they start recouping money through taxes, is then we're going to go through a lack of money supply for a while, and the government will have too much of it, and then it's going to be this big push pull where it's going to be, okay, now we gotta get back into the market, okay, now we're going to recoup it, now we get it back in the market. So it's going to be this weird, in my opinion, few years of interest rates going up and down based upon them trying to play this role of, and I might be boring people with this whole economic theory here about stuff, but that is what I've read with this main little bowl that we're in as far as crypto and the stock market, is not really that the economy is doing so hot. It's that we're in one of those phases where the money supply is now back in the hands of the consumers, because they've lowered the interest rates and they've incentivized a lot of other things to get it back in the hands of this. And then we're going to go through within another 6 months or a year or 18 months where there's going to be a lack of money supply, where there's not going to be, and then we're going to have this where it's just crazy. It's just it's just, I'm not being the best thought process. I'm going slowly. I'm going to take forever to get these boxes out today, as I have done 2, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 left. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of the theory with that. So I don't want people, what I'm trying to say is to really count their chickens before they hatch, because there's so much factors at play right now that I wouldn't be comfortable saying that we've turned the corner, even with Magic the Gathering. I think that maybe when tax season goes away, and we are. There's a lot of speculation that housing prices and food is going to continue to go up, and that could start really making the disposable income, which trading card games are the first thing to go when people don't have disposable income, and therefore we could be back in this whole mess. And that's why I cautions Wizards of the Coast to just, if I were them, the smart thing to do would be the conservative thing to do and just slow down. Slow your roll for right now. Let the market really recover. I don't think you're out of the weeds until things like Karlov Manor are actually being sought after, and I wouldn't compete with myself. I wouldn't continue to compete products. If I had like a product that was lackluster, I wouldn't then all of a sudden like, oh, we need to create a product now that will, you know, drive up some FOMO. I let the market do its thing. And one thing that we've seen about this type of era product that was so rejected by the market, this March of the Machines, is just give it time. Now this sucker's hot. This is hot. People are wanting to buy March of the Machines because now they're looking at the cards in it and thinking, wow, you know what? This set wasn't as bad as I thought it was. There was a lot of cool cards in it. There were a lot of cool reprints. And I am sure, if I'm a betting man, I am dead set certain that Dominator Remastered is going to follow the same path as things like March of the Machines. And the only one I don't like is like the Unfinity. That's the one that I think is going to be a terrible product unless Shocklands can really go crazy. That's like the one product I don't like from all the rejected products. Commander Masters, love it. I think that even the price point they originally wanted for Commander Masters will eventually get there where people will think that that's actually, you know, a steal of the deal for the cards that are contained in them. If, of course, Wizards just doesn't reprint. So anyway, that is kind of a discussion for today. Kind of a long-winded, don't know how noisy it is with this mic bouncing around and stuff too, but hopefully it's not too obnoxious. But I'm in a hurry and get the rest of these done. I was going to try to find collectors, but they're buried in here somewhere. Like I said, with this distributor, I only got 30 total collectors, so as you can see, it's mostly commanders. But yeah, I better get these out so my customers can get them on time. But I think all these discussions are worth everyone, you know, mulling over and thinking about before we make any sort of claims that, you know, we're in a bull market, we're out of the bear. You know, there's a great time to get into Magic the Gathering, back into like investing or speculating or whatnot. There are a lot of things that still need to be corrected, in my opinion. But anyway, it is still a good sign that we're in with a lot of these products from yesteryears that are actually starting to be in demand, which is really cool. So last little bit on Fallout, I would be very careful about the commander decks, because as you can see here, I've got these suckers here. Like, look at the date on the Lord of the Rings boxes here. So this one actually is a date. So this was reprinted. There at least was a reprint in November for you know, late October, November for Lord of the Rings. So my opinion with Universes Beyond is they're going to keep that IP chugging along. They're going to continue to print it in demand as, you know, people want it. We've seen Warhammer get multiple reprints. Doctor Who commanders are back in stock. The one thing is collectors don't seem to follow that. So the collectors are probably the more safer thing, which is good. I'm actually really loving that Wizards of the Coast is taking some prudence here and not doing what they did with Kamigawa collectors, not doing what they did with, what are some other ones? Modern Horizons 2 collectors. I know they got like the second waves and the third waves because like, oh, people are demanding this, let's print some more. And they can actually have a product that's collectible. Like, they're literally calling it collector's boosters. Maybe they should make them collectible. But yeah, so as far as commander decks are concerned, I wouldn't go crazy on Fallout. I wouldn't like overspend on them. I'm thinking there's going to be more available, just like Lord of the Rings, just like Doctor Who, just like Warhammer. They've all got subsequent waves. So anyway, that's all I've got for today. Hope you enjoyed this really rambly, weird video. Thanks for watching.